Hello, everyone. Welcome to the chat. I am starting maybe 15 minutes a little bit earlier tonight. I have to get out and get with my mom. We have some things to do. So I'm like, oh, God, it has to be this family trip tonight to go take care of some things. So I figured that I would start a little bit early tonight. I'm sure some of you, wherever you are, you will get the notifications and you'll probably trickle over to my channel and we can talk about this topic. So let me just jump in and I will go ahead and address my subscribers, my YouTube friends, once you guys get into the comments section of the community portion of this chat page. Like my whole chat page is just confusion, but I can see you guys, signing on little by little as I watch my computer. Hello, Ronald Zion. Welcome to the chat. I'm early, but I don't have a lot of time tonight, so I wanted to jump in. I told somebody yesterday, I'm like, I miss my YouTube friends. I miss them. They're so great. And I had a lot of stuff happening in my family, which is good stuff. It's just a lot. And so it pushed me to have to do a live chat on Friday. So just waiting on the rest of you. I think I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little bit of an understanding of what this brief live chat is going to entail. Now, last chat, which was last Wednesday, I believe it was. Yeah, last Wednesday, someone asked me the question, can you talk a little bit about the signs of sociopathy and how do you know when someone is a psychopath or a sociopath, and how do you know if that person is right in your family? And so I asked a bunch of you during that live to let me know if this is something that you want me to talk about. And so the answer was yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this tonight, and then I will give you at least 10 signs that you have a family member who is a sociopath. I also want to tease apart some terms that you may not have heard of before. And I also want to give you, and I think I put it up on my phone already, I want to give you a personality inventory that you can actually look at yourself. You can print it off the internet and you can look at it yourself. So, hi, I'm going to mess this up. Is it Bojan V or Bojan V? Hello, welcome to the chat. I see you. Welcome. Hello, love Lisa. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining us. I probably hi Paula L. Oh God, I'm gonna mess that up. I'm gonna say Paula. Hello, welcome to the chat. I just want to let you know I see you. I can't pronounce it. Hello, Sine. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much, guys, for signing on. Glad to see you. Before you guys signed on, I was giving a little bit of an overview of why this topic tonight. And so I'm going to tease apart sociopathy, psychoticism, which is probably something you haven't heard of before. And I'm also going to add in psychosis, because I'm sure all three of these things are present in your family if you have an unstable or unhealthy or toxic family. Hello, Liberty Can. I just saw you sign on. Welcome to the chat. Hope you're well as well. Thank you. Hello, Keisha. Welcome to the chat. Happy weekend to you as well. As a matter of fact, I don't work on Fridays, but because I took off Monday of this week to be with my mom and to kind of do some things with her, I had to put in my Friday just to make sure that I'm here for my clients tonight. So that's why I'm here. But I typically don't work on Fridays. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, okay. It's Boyan. Oh, okay. That time. Thank you. So I was saying before you guys signed on that a lot of you had asked for this video on sociopathy. So I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about that tonight and tease apart some terms with the hope of wrapping up around 7:10, somewhere around in there. So let's kind of jump into some terminology here. I know that in the field of psychology and on different YouTube channels, and even if you see a therapist, if you've had a therapist in the past, you probably have heard a lot of terms that are just confusing. What's a sociopath versus a psychopath, and what's psychoticism versus psychosis, and what's a narcissist versus a sociopath, a psychopath, and it just all gets confusing. I had a client come in the other day and she's like, I think my husband's a narcissist. And then the more we talk, she's like, you know what? I think he might be a sociopath. And then by the end of the session, she's like, no, 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 no. He's a psychopath. He's a psychopath. He has borderline personality traits, but he's also a psychopath. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not okay. And so, on this channel, I try to be a little bit more clear and direct about terms and labels so that you guys will have that knowledge. So let me kind of tease apart these terms for you briefly. So sociopathy, we all know what that is, right? It's an individual that is really low on empathy, or they are cold and callous, they're self-centered, they are really wrapped up in being ahead of the game, so to speak, ahead of the game when it comes to society, right? They think that they're smarter, they think that they're better, they think that every way that they think things should be is better, right? Everything that involves the sociopath is better than everybody else. They're smarter, they're prettier, they're more handsome, they're more calculating, they're more intelligent. Like there's always something about that sociopath, right? Family member or that individual, excuse me, who is a sociopath that they think they're better than everybody else, right? So that's a sociopath. Let me highlight though, a sociopath, no matter how great and wonderful they think they are, they tend to be more clumsy when it comes to the things that they do to harm other people. A sociopath, let's say, for example, could be a family member who has engaged in pathological lying for many years, right? They just make up stories, they lie, they triangulate, meaning that you become the persecutor, the one who is the problem or pointing the fingers. They become the victim, and somebody else in that triangle is going to rescue them in some fashion, right? So they triangulate. They may be very competitive. They may be very envious and jealous hearted. They may also be pretty stuck up, right? Arrogant and pompous, if you will. The sociopathic family member may also be very cold. One minute they appear to be on your side, they appear to be empathic, but the reality is that they don't have the capability inside of their heart to be empathic, to be engaged, to be something that you need them to be, right? Remember the live chat we had on the dark triad, and also false empathy. Remember that conversation, guys? And that's basically a sociopath. They try to put forth those socially appropriate and socially approved behaviors, and yet they just don't have the capacity to do it. Now, when they set out to do something that's evil, whether it's lie on you or lie to your face or use you for some legal issue they're in or use you to manipulate and dominate, right? Whatever it is, whatever they're trying to do, they typically end up coming across as clumsy. And in situations where there's been, a horrible crime, some kind of mass tragedy, some kind of rape or molestation, or, some kind of murder, sometimes sociopaths may even go to that point to try to kill you. Whatever it is, they tend to be clumsy and they can't cover their tracks. Sine, I see you on here, and I saw what you said at the very beginning, and I want to acknowledge the rest of you in a minute here. But Sine, I saw you at the very beginning of the chat, and you were like, I watched the Darrell Brooks trial, and man, he's the definition of narcissism. And yes, but he's also the definition of a sociopath, and here's why. All throughout the court case, and if you guys haven't seen it, you may want to just kind of tune in so you can see a real live sociopath and how they think and how they believe. It's a really complicated case. What makes him a sociopath is he thinks that he's smarter than everybody else. The sad and scary part of this is that he's not. He has absolutely no knowledge of the law, no ability to follow the decorum, the professionalism, the sophisticatedness of the law system. The law system is broken and it really is failed. But there are some, pieces of that law system that has to be followed. It has to be respected, right? How you present yourself in a court, what you wear to a court, how you present yourself to a judge who has all power and control over you, right? But when you bypass all of that and you put yourself out there in this overly confident way, even when you've been charged with murder, and even when the proof is in the pudding, right? Because they caught him on camera. Like there's no way he's going to lie himself out of this. The only rope he may have, left in this silly case, if you ask me, because, he just made a mockery of the whole thing. The only rope that he has left is to try to, blame somebody in the court, and say, I didn't get my rights met or whatever. But there's proof of what he did. And so, to come across as this arrogant, pompous individual who's an attorney that has knowledge of the system and doesn't care is really a sociopathic move. It's a sociopath in living color. And so, they tend to be very foolish and very sloppy and very, inadequate, if you will, for lack of a better word, in ways that you wouldn't expect, right? Because a sociopath can come across as very confident, and yet they don't have the skills to be what they want to be. Now, psychoticism, we're delving into something a little interesting here, guys. When we talk about psychoticism, psychoticism is basically a personality trait. It is not a mental illness. It's a personality trait that was developed by Eisenach. And I will try to post some things in the description box for you below so that you can learn a little bit more about Eisenach. And if you Google Eisenach model, you're going to come up with his model, and it's a 3-part model. Or maybe I should say a 3-word model. That might be more accurate. And on this model is psychoticism, introversion, or extroversion, if you will, neuroticism, and psychosis. So maybe I should take out the introversion, the extroversion. I'll leave that over there. So let's just say the acronym is P.E.N. P.E.N. So we have psychoticism, extroversion, and neuroticism. And I'm sure you guys know what neuroticism is, right? Neuroticism is this whole foundation within yourself, right? The foundation of who you are. Your baseline is anxiety and being worried and just being constantly keyed up and worried about things and thinking about things and just constantly in this state of anxiety. That's neuroticism. But then psychoticism is, basically this personality of being prone to risks, right? Risk taking. You like that stimulation. You may also be impulsive. And I'm saying you in general, because we're talking about family members here. So you may notice in your family member that they are prone to risks. They're overstimulated by evil things that they do. They also tend to be a nonconformist to rules of society. And like I said about Darrell Brooks, even the court system, right? So there's a lot of personality in psychoticism, but keep in mind that the psycho part of that, psycho, can also mean psychosis. And so this individual who is, a risk taker, impulsive, careless, callous, thinks they're smarter than others, also has one little element of psychosis, and they are very prone to psychosis, like schizophrenia and, hearing and seeing things that are not there. Okay, let me go back to the chat box because I want to catch up. You guys are way ahead of me here. Yes, Dragon Man Sasson. Happy Sasson. Happy Friday. Glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Okay. I'm looking for Boyan. I hope I'm saying it right. Boyan says, is sociopathy a clinical term? Some therapists and psychologists have different opinions. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think sociopathy is a clinical term. No, it's more so of a layman pop psychology term that everybody just kind of grabbed a hold of. And now everybody's throwing the word around. You're a sociopath and you're a sociopath. You know what I mean? The true term for sociopathy in a clinical sense, in a medical sense, is antisocial personality disorder. And you want to think of antisocial personality disorder as being on a spectrum. So antisocial personality disorder I'm going to give you a simple scale, between 1 and 5, may be that you're a little self-centered and you don't want to deal with other people and you don't find pleasure in connecting with other people. You rather be by yourself, right? You may think in some ways that are antisocial as well. And your antisocial personality or character traits may really shun people in a way, It's not like you're an introvert and you just want to be by yourself sometimes, like me. Antisocial personality disorder is clinical, and it's kind of how you've learned to survive in the world. It's your mindset, it's your character, it's your soul. You're antisocial. So 1 to 5 may be that mild version. But if we go from 5 to 10 on that scale, for example, then we're talking about a sociopath who doesn't put anyone before them, doesn't have the ability to empathize, So it becomes more clinical the further up that scale you get. I hope that answered your question. That's a good one. Hi, Shannon. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat. I need to go home. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Welcome. Um, Ronald Zion says something really good here. He says manipulative puppeteer. Yeah, all the time. All the time. And I think last chat we talked about flying monkeys. And so sociopaths have a lot of flying monkeys around, and they use them to gain power and control. Keisha says, reminds me of a supervisor at work. Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say that a lot of supervisors, a lot of very powerful businessmen, a lot of really powerful independent women can possess these traits of sociopathy. And it's not all, maybe not even most, it's a small portion of women. I'll try to post that research in the description box for you. Hello, blessed in every area of my life. Happy Friday to you too. Welcome to the chat. Sine says, I'm going to put a sentence in here for her. She says, these people show a surface level of emotion when it's convenient. Yes, absolutely. Convenience means I get what I want. I manipulate. I get over on them. I can lie to them and win. I can, so yeah, they do it all the time. Anytime they see a position that they can manipulate, they take it. Hi, John Park. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you as well. Yes, hope you are doing well as well. John Park says sociopaths are devoid of emotional empathy, compassion, and remorse, which makes them very dangerous individuals. Absolutely. And I'm getting ready to define a psychopath, which is different in some ways than a sociopath. So hang tight. Boyan says, can sociopaths have other mental illnesses? Yes, they can. So there is some research that suggests sociopaths may have been traumatized as children, or they may have witnessed a series of traumas. For example, community violence, right? In low socioeconomic neighborhoods where there's guns and drugs and prostitution and low income and low motivation and low zeal for life, right? In neighborhoods like that, there can be a developing sociopath, but also there could be some PTSD in there as well. What's unfortunate and what's very difficult for clinicians like myself who treat people who most likely have personality disorders as well is sometimes the personality disorder can be so huge in terms of how powerful it is the PTSD can't even get worked through because the sociopathy is on the top of everything. It's the surface of everything. And we're going to have to chisel away at that sociopathy so we can get to the trauma if we ever do. So there's a lot of research that really talks about the complicatedness of that whole scenario I just brought up. Hi, Sunflower Heather. Welcome to the chat. So good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Okay, so Sunflower Heather says, my friend's son has that diagnosis. He is 15 and really giving her a hard time. Man, so antisocial personality disorder legally cannot be diagnosed until age 18 because, of course, kids are still growing until they hit 18. However, there's some research that suggests that sociopathic traits can be identified at a young age, younger than 10 sometimes. You may see little things here and there. And looking in hindsight, when that person becomes an adult, it becomes very clear that they had some telltale signs of sociopathy. Can we clinically and legally diagnose for age 15? Absolutely not. But can we talk to the parent outside of the diagnostic system and say, here's where I see we're going with this. Here's what I see is probably going to be the problem in the future. We can do that. Absolutely. So I think that's what's happening probably in that scenario. It's pretty sad when you see an individual who's 15 that has sociopathy or sociopathic traits. I have a video that I posted online years ago called The Road to Sociopathy. I'll post that in the description box after this. But that road is long and tough when you're dealing with an adolescent who's at that stage. Hi, Cherries Jubilee. I'm so glad you made it. I see your comment. Hello, George. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. George says, do sociopaths assume a lot and take action on what they convince themselves or another person will do? Usually they're going to harm them and attack based on that idea. Okay, let me go back. Let's go back. Okay, do sociopaths assume a lot and take action on what they convince themselves another person will do. Yes. I want to make sure I'm understanding that. Yes, I think so. Yes, because sociopaths live in a whole world by themselves, George. They're over here somewhere skipping in a field with roses and lies and rose-colored glasses, while real normal human beings are over here struggling and being harmed by them and being manipulated by them and just, feeling deceived and maybe being lied on by them, whatever. We're over here living the real world, and they're over here skipping in the field somewhere, just kind of living in their own mental space. And so, yeah, they can absolutely do that. Again, most likely because they're over here in a field skipping around and they're doing what they want to do. They see themselves the way that they want to see themselves. They don't see themselves the way that they really are. So they see themselves the way they want to be seen, not the way they really are. And that's what they operate off of. That's why some sociopaths are overly confident, because they have a mental picture of who they are. They don't get who they really are, if that makes sense. Hi, Cheryl. Just want to say hello to you before I jump back into the content. Glad to see you on the channel. All right, let's get back into the content, guys. Okay, so let me give you an acronym that's probably going to be helpful to you. I would kind of store in the back of my mind, especially if you're dealing with a family member. This acronym is P.E.N for psychoticism, extroversion, and neuroticism. And you want to be able to look at that and ask yourself, is this my family member? Is this my mom? Is this my dad? Is this my cousin? Is she, showing some signs of psychosis? Is she impulsive, and does she take risks, and does she lie a lot? And, is she a nonconformist in a way that can harm other people and harm herself? A nonconformist is not always a bad thing, as you know. Sometimes, and I'm a nonconformist, to be very honest, I go against the grain of things, because I don't like the way certain things have been taught to us. I think my channel is somewhat of a nonconformist kind of community, because I'm talking about things that the world just doesn't necessarily pay attention to, so being a nonconformist is not bad in and of itself. But when you are thinking about mass shooting, when you're thinking about, lying on your whole family and committing a crime and, doing something really huge, that nonconformist mentality can really make you a criminal. So you want to ask yourself, is this psychoticism? This extroversion that this family member has really kind of grabs you because they're charming, they're interesting, and are they neurotic? Do they kind of live in a state of neurosis, of anxiety and avoidance and fear in some way? So P.E.N, that's an awesome acronym that you can kind of store in the back of your mind. So you may want to also Google. I'm trying to think of his name before I botch this up. Eisenach. You want to look up Eisenach, and you can either say Eisenach, the three-part model, or Eisenach psychoticism, and you will get a little bit more information on them. So let me define psychopathy briefly, and then I'll give you some signs that you have a family member like this. Psychopathy is basically the same thing as a sociopath. The only difference between a sociopath and a psychopath, if you just need to make that difference, is that again, sociopaths tend to be more clumsy, whereas psychopaths tend to be a little bit more charming. Their acts are more well thought out. They tend to be more deceptive and calculating. And they also have everything planned out in a way that makes it really hard for other people to follow their footsteps. That's why Ted Bundy didn't get caught so soon, right? Jeffrey Dahmer, he got away with crime and murder and whatever else he wanted to for many, many months and many weeks, because he had that I'm going to call it the psychopath gene, where he could do all these evil things and still appear to be a wholesome human being, and still appear okay, even though deep inside he was evil. So keep that in mind. A psychopath is basically the same thing as a sociopath. It's just the psychopath is a little bit more experienced and skilled in how they do their evil. So, all right, guys. So, let's think about this for a second, okay? How do you know if your family member is a sociopath? How do I know if my family member has psychoticism? How do I know if my family member is a psychopath? What are those signs? There's a couple of them. And you can go online and find a whole smorgasbord of signs, but I've narrowed these down for you so you can kind of have a little bit more of a checklist in your mind. Okay. So the first thing that you're likely to see in a sociopathic family member is deceitfulness and pathological lying. That's almost the number one sign of somebody with sociopathic traits, because deception and lying is how they get from point A to point B. And most sociopaths have that, that rewarding feeling, that stimulation that they enjoy, that rewarding internal feeling that that person over there is completely off the grid. They don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what my intent is. I'm winning at this game is typically their mindset. And so deceitfulness and pathological lying is something that you're most likely going to see more often than not. Now, you're also going to see manipulativeness. You're going to see that, and triangulation. Sociopaths triangulate. They know how to pull this person in, this person, that person, right? And then sometimes they pull in additional people. And before you know it, you've got a whole family, for example, full of flying monkeys, if you will, or a whole family full of people who are deceived by this sociopath. Can you imagine having a mom or a dad? And when I get back to the chat, I'm sure I'm going to see that one of you think your parent is a sociopath. But can you imagine having a parent like that, guys? Like, like my mom is lovey-dovey. I'm sure you have, some loving family members that you can connect with. But to have an absolutely cold-hearted, callous, I'm going to make up a word, unempathic individual who's trying to raise you can be really traumatic. And I have in my history two clients that I've counseled who have parents like that, and it really messes you up for a very long time. And again, it's that triangulation, it's that manipulation, it's that deceitfulness, and sometimes that pathological lying. Let me throw in here as a bonus, parental jealousy. There are some parents who are completely envious and jealous of their child. Now, why? I don't know, right? It could be a variety of reasons why. But sociopathic parents can hold within them and hide this envy. I wish I were him. I wish I had what you had when, I wish I had what you have when I was your age, kind of a thing. Now, normal, healthy parents may say something like that, I wish I could have made it as far as you did. And they leave it at that. But a sociopathic parent may treat you indifferently, may treat you wrongly, may, try to really destroy your life. There's a difference there. But manipulation and triangulation is another big sign. You also want to keep in mind this callous and cold indifference. A sociopath doesn't really care. They have no need to care. It hasn't been birthed in them to care. They are either extraordinarily low on empathy, or they have it, or they don't have it at all. You want to keep up with the concept of the dark triad, the dark triad, which is Machiavellianism. What did I say? Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and oh God, I'm forgetting the first one. Let's just say sociopathy. It's too many models, okay, guys? But you want to keep in mind that the dark triad. I'm going to post a video in the description box for you so you can go back and watch my videos, my live chat on the dark triad. But you want to keep in mind that, these kind of family members are cold and they are callous. They are indifferent. They don't care. You could be falling out on the floor, crying, screaming, yelling, pounding your fists. I need you to help me. And they're just like, pick yourself up. Have a good day, Also, too, you want to keep in mind that with a sociopathic parent or family member, they're going to strategize to get on top. They don't want to be here. They don't want to be down here. They want to be up here. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to be there. I've had, oh God, I'm going to say maybe 5 or 6 sociopathic parents in my career, my entire 14 years as a therapist. 14 years as a therapist in various capacities. And the 6 parents that I had that was like this, and I think I've also had like family members as well in between. But there's kind of like this desire to always one up and always be above. They don't know how to be humble and modest and just say, I'm sorry. They don't know how to apologize. They don't know how to be accountable. They just kind of hurt people and then force you to suck it up, So they are not humble individuals. They strive and strategize to be on the top, sadly. All right, let me go to the chat box, make sure I'm not missing anything that's important. Because you guys have a lot of comments that are often very important. Yes, you're welcome, Sine. Absolutely. Oh, no, no, no. No worries, George. I saw you. You had manners. Cheers Jubilee says, I spent the last 2 days requesting medical records and realized I can add them all to my chart. Oh, okay. So you're on um, I think you're talking about something totally different. She says, Mom never expected digital medical records. Oh, so I guess I'm kind of getting the vibe that something's going on there. I need to go back and read your comments. Hi, Annabis, the opener of ways. Welcome to the chat. So glad to have you. Hello. Um, Cheryl says, are there more people in the world like this compared to 20 years ago? Are there more in the US than other places? Oh, that's such a fantastic question. My answer for that is yes and no. So, are there more people in today's society than in the past? Probably not. Now, based on the little bit of research that I have found, because I've had the same question, my understanding is that it is there's more awareness. I guess that's how I could put it. There's more awareness of sociopathy in today's society than 20 years ago. When I talked to my mom about Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, my mom's like, oh, maybe they weren't raised right, or maybe they're just criminal minded. And it's like there's this slight aloofness there. And even when I talk to my brothers about it too, they're like, oh, well, maybe they're just criminals. They're more than criminals. Their mindset is so warped. But I think people that were born before the year 2000 have this different idea of sociopathy, and so now we've gained a little bit more knowledge about it and a little bit more insight. And so I think it's just more visible in today's society. I have the question too. Is there more in the US than in other areas? I don't know. I heard China's pretty narcissistic. I heard Japan is pretty sociopathic. Some like Russia has some pretty narcissistic individuals there, and some sociopathic behaviors. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know, Cheryl. I'm going to be doing my research tonight for sure. Hi, Emma. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says, does one political party have more sociopaths? I mean, I don't know. Does one racial category have more sociopaths? That's such a good question. And I'm just going to be humble and say, I don't see any research out there that I can pull from. So I don't know. I don't have the numbers in research to be able to say, okay, this is, the Asian race, this is the biracial race, you know what I mean? I will say that research does highly support that more men tend to be sociopaths than women. Now, women are typically diagnosed borderline personality, narcissistic, sometimes avoidant, but rarely a sociopath. And that's why female sociopaths can kind of, slither their way through the system because they're really good at it. They're really good at it. Sine says, are sociopaths more impulsive or calculated in their actions towards others? Sociopaths, yes. And Sine, you probably heard me when I went over this earlier that psychopaths are more strategic, they're more calculating, they're more engaged in trying to win people over, whereas a sociopath is really clumsy. They make mistakes. Yes, Sunflower Heather, it does. A Machiavellian narcissist, yes. Emma says, so how do you explain someone that says they are ghost sexual? Some people now think they're gender ghost based on, I don't know. I'm coming back to that. I don't know. And I don't know if that was a question for me or somebody else in the chat. Hello, Kyra Knows 144. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Hi, Lisa. Glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Lisa asks, is no contact the safest way in dealing with them, even if they are family? I mean, sometimes, yeah. If it's a scenario where, the sociopathic family member is harming you. Hold on. My computer's dying. Hold on. Okay. I have my cord plugged in. I'm so sorry. I don't want to lose you. And I'm going to be signing off in a little bit, guys. And I'll come back next week and we'll jump into a little bit more of this, but under a different heading. But if the family member Lisa is unhealthy to you and they are harming you and your sanity is at stake, walk away. Like, it's just not worth it. And if you find too that this individual keeps making mistakes over time, many chances and many times, then there's a serious problem there. You know what I mean? So you want to keep that in mind. A sociopath doesn't ever change. A tiger doesn't change its stripes. It doesn't. It just, it keeps going the same way. And so sociopath is the same exact way. Okay, so let me get back into the identifiers. How can you identify that this is happening in your family? And I think we left off at the family member wants to be on top, right? A sociopath strategizes so that they can stay on the top. But you also want to look at irritability and mood fluctuations. Some sociopaths tend to be very irritable and angry and resentful, that they almost walk around with this arrogant, cold indifference to other people. And, this is the kind of person that may walk by you in a mall, bump into you, and keep going and not even pause and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," they don't even bother, right? Or this is the individual who walks into the room and they have this cold, arrogant, pompous disposition. They hold themselves out like this, and they have this confrontational, angry stance all the time. So a sociopath can sometimes walk around with all those chips on their shoulders. I'm sure you've seen people like that. Or they go off the minute they feel that they've been slighted, and then they threaten things like lawsuits and subpoenas. And it can really get ugly with these individuals because they are in a world of their own. You want to kind of think of a sociopath and a psychopath as being stuck mentally in a world that's way over there somewhere, right? And all their thoughts about themselves and others is so skewed. Reality just doesn't exist to them. They're in their own mental space. Can you imagine that? It's really tough. I also think you want to keep in mind that these kind of sociopaths often have ulterior motives, and they tend to have a criminal mindset. This is just how they behave. They want to get over on people. I'm sure you've seen white collar criminals where they wear a suit and tie and they seem really well put together, or the women dress really nice skirt, nice heels, but then all at the same time they're taking money out of the business deposit account or the checking account. You know what I mean? Or the family member, the sociopathic parent, excuse me, may raise you so that they can brag about you later on to the community and to other people, but behind closed doors they're a raging, unhealthy, dysfunctional, toxic parent. So keep in mind that sociopaths tend to have ulterior motives to almost everything that they do. Even raising a child, there's an ulterior motive there as well. They're self-centered and kind of they internalize everything. So it's all about them and how they feel and how they think and how they behave in the world. You also want to keep in mind that they have a criminal mindset. So you're likely to see sociopaths as substance abusers. They may have a jail record or a prison record. They may engage in petty crimes. They may even try to rob something or burglarize something, or they're always thinking of the next criminal thing to do to gyp someone or cheat someone out of something. So keep that in mind. The other thing is a disregard for laws and norms. Watch the Darrell Brooks trial. You're going to get a clear picture of what that looks like. They talk over you. They manipulate the situation. They exaggerate, unimportant details. They try to manipulate how you see the world. You're wrong. They're not. You're blind. They're not, right? They don't want to, they don't want to, and they don't have the capacity to be very honest, to come to your side of the road and see things a certain way. They're going to yank and pull and drag you to their side of reality, for lack of a better analogy. But their world is their world. You better get in it, right? Because somebody said something smart to me one time, and I don't remember what it was. I'm going to try it. They said the world for that individual, the sociopathic individual, the world revolves around. No, I'm going to mess this up. I would have said my mentor. One of my mentors said something like, in the sociopathic world, okay, they feel like their world is this big, right? And your world is this big. I think that's how he put it to me. I don't know. If I can figure it out and clarify it, I'll come back and put it in the description box. So, also too, early problematic behaviors. You can sometimes, look at a sociopathic family member, look back into their adolescence, look back into their childhood, and, look and see if you can find some deceptive lying behaviors, that are not healthy. You can often look in the past and find some footsteps that led that person up to being a sociopath. And, also lastly, before I go back to the chat, and sign off for the night, you also want to keep in mind that sociopaths tend to be rather intelligent. So, they're going to come across as intelligent. They're going to come across as really smart. And they may also throw around some things that really are true and can make them look and appear smart, but it really doesn't mean that they are. Remember, they are clumsy individuals. So somewhere they're going to trip up somewhere. Okay, let me go back to the comment section, guys, and then I'm going to sign off for the night. Keisha says that's really scary. It's hard to know who to trust in this world. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think that's why if you have loving people that are around you, and maybe on the channel here, that you cling to them and don't let go, because, in a sense, I don't see a lot of people around that are trustworthy. And that's a sad reality. So I always tell, my family, my mom, my brothers, hold on to the people that you can trust, right? Because there's a shortage. There's a shortage for sure. George says, my family member will think we will go behind their back and snake them in a harmful way. So they one up me based on the belief that I'm going to get them and they do evil things against us. Yeah, there's some family members, George, like that. You're experiencing it right now. They're going to hurry up and beat you to the situation, right? Because they don't want you to reveal who they are. The other piece of that is, yeah, some of them are very paranoid because they've done so many evil things, that they don't know who to trust, right? Are you going to show me up for who I really am, or are you going to do it? So yeah, that doesn't shock me. Hi, Tay Blue. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hi, Tay Blue. Welcome to the chat. So glad to have you. Yes, and you are new to the chat, so welcome. John Park says, I can now spot these personality disordered people a mile away. The best approach towards them is using the gray rock method. Yeah, I also did a video on that. I'll post that in the description box for you as well. Give them absolutely none of your attention. Cut off their supply. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, John, because a sociopath has a huge supply, okay? And I mean a huge supply of weapons that they've learned works over time with the everyday typical person. And that's why so many people get, sidetracked and deceived by sociopaths, because they already have a whole smorgasbord full of tools. It just depends on which one they're going to pull off the wall to use on you. So I hate to sound that way, right? Because it always feels like you need to be looking over your shoulder, but it's reality. It really is. And in certain areas of life and sectors than others, you know what I mean? So, places like prisons, prisons are not areas that you want to go through, singing kumbaya and holding hands with everyone in there. They do need help. They do need redemption. They do need restoration. But here, this is the only example I have right now. Go walking through a prison system with your guard down is going to get you ate up, because you have to understand that they have a certain mentality. They exist in a world that is not yours. And so their way of behaving and seeing things and interpreting things is so different. It wasn't until I walked through a juvenile delinquent center that was so much like a jail years ago that I learned, man, this cold, callous place that these criminal minds who are juveniles are existing in puts me at great risk, because I was always starting out the kind of therapist that was like, I'm sorry, sweetheart, talk to me and open up to me. And I had to learn over time, I need to balance that sweet and lovingness with some wisdom, because there's a lot of sociopathy, even in juvenile delinquency centers and even in places where juveniles have been charged with murder. It's sad, but it's true. Thank you, Cheryl. She is supporting George. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you, Cherry's Jubilee. I love that you guys support each other. I say that all the time. Emma says triangulation is not just a behavior of sociopaths either. Um, a D is canceling cayenne as manipulation too. Well, I mean, let me just kind of piggyback off of that a little bit. No, triangulation can happen in all sectors of life, as we all know. All you need are three people. One, two, three. I need to go home. Three people. All you need are three people to make that triangle work. And sometimes you can pull in another rescuer, and it just gets bigger and more complicated over time. All right, guys. Sine says, before I sign off, Sine says, this is absolutely my mother. And yes, it's devastating. She is why I initially sought out more understanding, which led to you very eye opening and honestly vindicating videos. Thank you. You're welcome. Absolutely. One of the reasons, and I want to comment on what you just said about your mom, but one of the reasons why I do YouTube and I do it so consistently is it's almost like online therapy, and I recognize that there's a huge gap in the field where we don't have this kind of knowledge. So I'm always honored and grateful that I get to bring that knowledge to you guys. In terms of your mom, Sine, like, that is devastating. We all expect our moms to be loving and caring and compassionate, and to just stand back and watch the behavior and tag that as sociopathic is difficult. It's traumatizing for some people, to say the least. Hello, Karen. You so glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Says, can you go over what exposure is for anxiety and depression at a later date? Yeah, absolutely. Briefly, exposure is inching you little by little over time to the very thing that you're afraid of until you can jump in full force. That's basically it. So exposure therapy, it's okay. I'm afraid of the mall. Well, let's go to get in the car. Let's drive and park across the street from the mall. I'm still afraid of the mall. Well, let's go into the parking lot and stand for a while. I'm still afraid of the mall. Let's go into the lobby of the mall. So it's like slowly inching you up to that thing that you fear until it's absolutely extinct. It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. Emma says, what was wrong with Darrell Brooks, and what was wrong with the judge? Why was the judge laughing along with him when he was there? Because he killed Jackson Sparks. Yeah, I saw that too, and I'm like, okay, I'm not all right with that. Something's wrong there. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment on her. She went through a lot already, but I agree. I agree. Sunflower Heather says psychopaths, I would say, are inherently evil. Yes, they are. Yes, you're welcome, Lisa. John Park says, so true, Tamara. They are not willing to learn from their mistakes. Sadly, they just don't have the awareness. Yeah. Yeah. They're in a world all on their own. Yes, Cherry's Jubilee. Arrogance, check. Jealous, check. Yeah, you can check, check, check. You'll probably come up with some people you know. Sean Hammer, hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Okay, guys. I'm going to sign off. I love your conversation. I say this every chat, but it's true. Love seeing every last one of you. I will be back. I see other people commenting before I sign off for good. Bye, George. Thank you for coming to the chat. Penda Maziki says, thanks for what you do. You have helped me a lot. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope I said your screen name correctly. Adam, so glad to see you. Electromagnet Bliss. Hello, welcome to the chat. I don't remember seeing you before. I will try to engage you next chat, I promise. Yes, you're welcome. Absolutely. All right, guys, I will see you in the next live chat next Wednesday. I have a lot going on, so I'm not going to do a video on Sunday, but I will see you live chat next Wednesday. Hope to see you then. Love you much. Bye-bye.